Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Have you ever wondered why Americans constantly ask, "How are you?" even when they don't seem interested in the answer? If you've ever felt confused by this common American greeting, you're not alone. Today we're exploring one of the most misunderstood aspects of American culture: why people ask, "How are you?" and what they actually mean when they say it. Let's begin. The first thing to understand is that "how are you?" is often not really a question. Imagine you're walking into a grocery store. The cashier smiles and says, "Hi, how are you?" Do they really want a detailed report about your life? Usually, no. In many situations, "how are you?" is simply another way of saying hello. It's a social ritual. Americans often use phrases like, "How are you?" "How's it going?" "What's up?" "How have you been?" The goal isn't to gather information. The goal is to be friendly and acknowledge another person. Think of it like a handshake with words. So why did this habit develop? American culture generally values friendliness, positivity, and casual interactions. People regularly interact with strangers throughout the day. Cashiers, waiters, neighbors, co-workers, delivery drivers, and customers. A quick "how are you?" helps create a pleasant atmosphere. Even if the conversation lasts only a few seconds, both people feel acknowledged. It's a way of saying, "I see you. I recognize you. Let's be friendly." Now, here's where many international visitors become confused. When someone asks, "How are you?" Americans usually expect short answers. For example, "Good, thanks." "I'm doing well." "Pretty good." "Not bad." "Great, thanks." "How about you?" Notice how brief these responses are. Even if life isn't perfect, people often give a positive answer. A typical conversation might sound like this: "How are you?" "Good. How are you?" "Good." And that's it. The entire exchange may last only 3 seconds. Now let's imagine a different situation. Someone says, "Hi, how are you?" And you answer, "Actually, I'm having a terrible week. My dog is sick, my boss is angry, and I'm worried about money." Is that wrong? No, but it may feel unexpected. Why? Because the other person probably intended the question as a greeting, not as an invitation for a deep conversation. The listener may not know how to respond because they weren't prepared for such personal information. This is one reason why cultural misunderstandings happen. People from different countries often have different expectations about conversations. In some cultures, if someone asks, "How are you?" they genuinely want a detailed answer. The question is taken literally. As a result, visitors to the United States sometimes think Americans are being fake. Meanwhile, Americans may think visitors are oversharing. Neither side is wrong. They're simply following different cultural rules. But here's something important. Sometimes Americans really do want to know how you're doing. The key is understanding the context. If a close friend calls and asks, "Hey, how have you been?" they probably want a real answer. If a coworker sits down beside you and says, "How are things going lately?" they're often inviting a longer conversation. If a family member asks, "Are you okay?" that's usually a genuine expression of concern. In these situations, longer and more honest answers are completely normal. The closer the relationship, the more likely people expect a real response. Another important piece of this puzzle is something called small talk. Small talk is a short, light conversation about everyday topics. Examples include the weather, weekend plans, sports, traffic, work, food. Many Americans see small talk as an important social skill. It's not about exchanging important information. It's about creating comfort and connection. For example, "Nice weather today." "Yeah, it's beautiful." Neither person learns anything particularly important, but the interaction feels friendly. The same principle applies to "How are you?" It's often less about the answer and more about the interaction itself. Americans also have many similar greetings. You might hear, "What's up?" "How's it going?" "How are things?" "How have you been?" "What's new?" Interestingly, many of these questions don't require literal answers either. For example, "What's up?" "Not much." "You?" "Not much." Nobody actually explains what is up. It's simply a social greeting. So what should you say if someone asks, "How are you?" Keep it simple. Try responses like, "Good, thanks." "Pretty good." "Doing well." "Not bad." "Great, thanks." And you? If you're having a difficult day, you can still be honest without sharing too much. For example, "A little tired today." "Busy, but doing okay." "I've been better. Can't complain." These responses sound natural and friendly. So why do Americans always ask, "How are you?" and sometimes not mean it literally? Because in American culture, the phrase often functions as a greeting rather than a genuine request for information. It's part of small talk. It's a way to be polite, friendly, and create positive social interactions. Once you understand this cultural habit, conversations become much easier to navigate. The next time an American asks, "How are you?" you'll know exactly what they probably mean and what kind of answer they're expecting. And now, here's a question for you. In your country, when people ask, "How are you?" do they really want to know? Think about it and let me know. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.